Welcome back to another episode of The Road Chose Me. And on today's episode, a question that everyone's been asking me about driving the Alaska Highway: what do we do about bear and animal safety? So if you're wondering, when you're in camp, when you're cooking, when you're on the road, how much of a concern is it and what do you do about it? If you've ever wondered about that, stick around. I'll get into the details right now. So a couple of housekeeping things. While I'm talking, I'm going to show you some footage of road construction here in the Yukon. So this is the major highway that goes from Whitehorse to Dawson City, and they're rebuilding a big segment of the road. And you can see the scale of construction up here. I was saying how the permafrost and the frost heaves make it really hard to keep a high quality road. So watch the scale and how much dirt they're building up for the road base and the size of the construction equipment as well. And when I drove through here in the rain a few days ago, I actually used four-wheel drive to keep moving, and I believe a car got stuck. The pilot car had to go back and check. So road construction up here is no joke, and I've sped this footage up ×2, but this gives you an indication. It took me 25 minutes to drive through this one section of construction. Another housekeeping thing, you guys know I've been having audio problems while driving. My wireless microphone cuts out when the engine's running. I guess something about the frequencies, and also the background noise is really hard to deal with just the road noise in the engine. So on this episode, I'm actually just sitting by the Yukon River and I'm just pretending to drive. You can probably see out the window beside me. I'm not actually going anywhere. So let's get into it. Bear safety when you're up in the north. And this is a huge topic, and I know tons of people worry about it, but I'm going to start from the very beginning and say it's not something you need to be massively concerned about. In all of the Yukon and Alaska combined, every single year, less than one person gets attacked by a bear. So statistically speaking, it's very unlikely that you will have a bear attack. Certainly, there are many, many bear encounters. I've had quite a few myself. But if you're really worried about being attacked, try to remember it's very unlikely. You're much more likely to have a car crash or, other thing like that we never seem to think about, but are still dangerous nonetheless. And if you're in a ground tent, absolutely, you can do that. Plenty of people do. I did my first time up here. So don't think that if you have a ground tent, you can't come to Alaska. Before we go too much about bears though, what other animals do we need to worry about? And people think maybe cougars or mountain lions would be a problem. It turns out they're not, because essentially there aren't any up here. Because the winters are so cold, it's the same reason there's no deer this far north. They just don't live up here. There were a couple spotted near Whitehorse for the first time ever about 5 years ago, but any further north than that, there are no mountain lions, so it's not something you need to worry about. So it really is just bears is like the predator that, potentially could give you some trouble. And the first thing I want to talk about is when you see them on the side of the road. And notice I didn't say if you see them on the side of the road, I said when you see them. This trip, I've probably seen 10 or 12 black bears, including a couple of really cute little cubs, and I've seen a couple of grizzly bears as well. And all of them are within like 10 yards of the road. So they're really easy to spot, and usually they don't run away too quick, so it's not too hard to get photos. In fact, the photos I'm putting up right now, these were all taken from the driver's seat of my vehicles over the years as I've been in the north. But you definitely get to the point where you don't even stop anymore. So if you do see one on the side of the road, feel free to pull over, make sure you put your four-way flashes on and get as far off the driving lane as you can. You see way too many tourists who just stop in the driving lane. And the Alaska Highway, the trucks move fast, so you really want to make sure you're visible and make sure that your four-way flashes are on. And I know it seems silly that I have to say this, but don't get out of your vehicle to take photos of a bear. I see this all the time. Even friends of mine have done it, and they say, oh, I'm really good with animals and I could tell he wasn't going to be aggressive. I just can't stress enough how powerful and how dangerous wild bears are. They are unbelievably strong and fast, and to get out of your vehicle is just complete insanity. There is absolutely no reason to do that, and it is really dangerous. So stay in your vehicle. I personally am even careful about putting the window down. If it's pretty close or if it's really looking at me, I don't feel comfortable with the window down. The speed that a grizzly bear would be able to close 10 or 20 yards distance, and to be honest, if he wanted to, he would just come through the window anyway. But personally, stay in your vehicle. Sure, take your photos, but don't be getting out to take selfies. So once you're out of your vehicle, you're at camp, things like that, what do you do for bear safety? And the number one thing you can do is to have a can of bear spray like this one that I've got here. You can see mine's really beat up. It's been on a lot of adventures with me over the years. So this is just pepper spray. Usually it's a little bit stronger. And if you look on YouTube, there's some really great videos that show people actually using it on bears, and it really does work. The bears really quickly, turn tail and they run. They don't like getting a face full of this stuff. But make sure you feel comfortable with the can. It has a little safety that you have to slide off, and then make sure you're pointing it the right way before you squeeze the trigger. So think about it and make sure you have a can of bear spray with you. Whenever you're in camp, it's worth having it on the picnic table. They usually come with a little holster so you could put it on your belt if you want. If you're going hiking, make sure you've got one on your backpack. Bear spray is without a doubt the most effective thing you can have. And you'll be able to buy it as soon as you get anywhere in the north. Any kind of outdoorsy or hiking shop, they're going to sell bear spray, no problem. So that's my number one thing. I've never used it on a bear, as I said. I have had the safety off a couple of times when a bear was maybe like 5 yards away from me, snarling and stamping its feet. Not a nice feeling, but in every case, the bear backed down and I slowly backed away, and there was no incident to speak of. It didn't actually try to attack me. So bear spray, yes, definitely keep a can. If you're sleeping in a ground tent, probably worth having it in the tent with you overnight. Not a bad idea at all. In terms of food and bear safety, there's no doubt they are attracted to smelly things. Certainly if you're cooking meat, hamburgers, anything like that, you want to make sure that when you're done cooking, put all of that smelly stuff inside your vehicle. Don't leave your dirty dishes out overnight. Anything like that, it needs to be securely stored inside your vehicle. And it's true that bears can break into vehicles to get food, but it is really rare and it's not something that you really need to be concerned about, especially if you're staying in a government campground or anywhere else where there's other people around. A bear might wander through, but if 2 or 3 people kind of clap their hands and yell at it, it's going to scamper away because it's fairly timid of people. If you're camping somewhere in the wilderness, any kind of organized campsite, they're going to have bear lockers for you. So these are big steel boxes that are basically impossible for a bear to get into. And the idea is you store all of your food and your stove and all your smelly things, put them inside that bear locker whenever you're not actively cooking. Also, usually you set up your tent maybe 50 or 100 yards away from that area. And so at camp is only yourself and your clothes, nothing else at all. And then when it's time to cook, walk over to the bear lockers, and there's usually a table or a cooking area, and you're going to do all of your cooking there. So all of those smells and all of your dishwater and that kind of thing, they all stay in that one area. And so if a bear did happen to come along, it would be over there by the bear lockers, and it's not going to be over where you guys are in your tent. Whenever I'm wild camping all by myself, bears are something that I think about for sure. I like to keep my eyes out and have a bit of a look around. But as I said, it's not something you need to be deathly afraid of. The chances of a bear actually coming up and chomping you, they're extremely slim, but do keep your wits about you. Think about where is your food, where are your smelly items, and if you're just sitting quietly by yourself, especially if you're near a river that has salmon or, somewhere where bears are common, then yeah, you may very well see a bear. And normally, it's probably best to just get back into your vehicle, sit in the driver's seat and watch it from inside your car. You're going to be really safe in there, but certainly it's not great to be out and about when there's a bear around. If that does happen, you want to try and group up with other people as much as you can, so all stand together. And you can raise your arms in the air, you can speak loudly, you can even clap your hands. Lots of us, we just put our arms up and we say, "Hey bear, whoa bear, what's going on bear?" And they'll turn around and look at you, and then they know you're there, so you haven't startled the bear. 99.9% of the time, the bear's going to scurry away. They're not interested in messing with people. They don't want to deal with any of that. So without a doubt, make sure you get a can of bear spray. That's a real priority. And other than that, you don't need to be deathly afraid of bears. It's not that big of a possibility. So I know everyone wanted me to cover this topic. I hope this has been really helpful. Let me know if you've got more questions about wildlife safety when you're up here on the Alaska Highway. And if this has been helpful, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel. Still more content. I've been having tons of adventures up here in the north. I have a ton of video to edit and to share with you guys. So until next time, I hope you're staying safe and you can get out on adventures of your own, and maybe I'll see you on the road.